Hello, everyone. Welcome to School After Hours podcast, where staff, administrators, and families keep their finger on the pulse of the wonderful world of OST programming, aka out of school time programming. I am your host, Jay Lee, and today we have the wonderful Tiffany Thomas on the show. Yay! Tiffany is the Director of Programs at Partnership for the Future, a college access and workforce readiness program for high school students here in the Tri-City area of Richmond. She's been helping students navigate the college process for over 20 years. Ooh, that is some time right there. But when you love what you do, you stick with it. So when I thought about doing an episode for college preparation, I felt Tiffany was the perfect person to have on the show. So in today's episode, we'll be talking about some things that students and parents can do to prepare for that transition from high school to college. Also, some of the difficulties you might come across in that transition. But we'll also touch base on some things that you could do outside of getting a 4-year degree. Like, so what are your alternatives? If you didn't want to do the whole 4-year track, what are some other things that you could look into? So we'll also dive into that too. But before we get into the interview, let's get into our Community Corner. Community Corner is a segment of the show that allows guests or myself to share tips, advice, or information about the OST field with families, youth, and community members. So, for this episode of Community Corner, I asked Tiffany, what are the top 3 things parents and students should know about the transition process from high school to college? Here was her response.
Janice, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to share everything that I know about college access. I will go ahead and get started with my top 3 things that parents and students need to know to prepare for the transition from high school to college. So overall, it's a transition for everyone, for the student and for the parent. But the most important thing is the student is the one that's in college, making the decisions while learning responsibilities, and the parents must support them through that. So that's tip number 1. Number 2 is making sure that you both understand the financial aid options, from free money to loans to work study, as well as making sure that parents help the students learn the responsibility, but also recognizing that it's the student's responsibility to go to financial aid office to put their names on the loans. So anything that they borrow is in the student's name. So making sure the students fully understand that financial responsibility. And then the third thing I would say is coping skills for both the students and parents. Again, as I mentioned, it's a transition. And so making sure that you all know your coping skills before you go into college, whether that is exercising, taking walks, eating nutritiously, as well as making sure that the student know where the resources are on the campus, from the writing center to the academic center to the health center for mental health. All of those things help out. And in addition to that, for the parents, there are a lot of colleges that have online parent groups, especially if it's your first time that your child is going off to college. And so there's a community for you as well. So it's not only, support for the students and coping for the students, but it's the same thing for the parents. So those would be the top 3 things I would share regarding helping parents and students transition from high school to college.
Thank you for sharing that information, Tiffany. Now, let's jump into the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in college access and career readiness programs.
Sure. Again, I'm Tiffany Thomas. I'm the Director of Programs with Partnership for the Future. I've been with Partnership now 11 years. My whole career has been in nonprofit organizations and college access. And so myself in middle school started in a college preparation program similar to Partnership for the Future called Project Discovery, from middle school to high school. And they helped me navigate through college and get into college at VCU. I also was a work study student for that same organization and ended up getting a full-time job a year before I finished college. And so I've had the fortune to just transition on in to a career that I love, that I'm very passionate about. And so I really love to help young people help realize their collegiate dreams as they navigate through high school. And so that's what I've been doing, and I'm happy to have been doing it for the last 20 plus years.
Ooh, you've been doing this for a long time, Tiffany.
Absolutely, for a long time, but I love the work that I do.
Awesome. And that's what makes it enriching and more closer to your heart. When you love doing what you're doing, like that's how you stay in it for as long as you do. So congratulations, ma'am.
Absolutely.
20 and based on the academic timeline. So from your middle school years to your high school years and prepping for going to college, what should students be doing at those stages and at those grade levels to prepare for that transition to college?
Great question. So if you're middle school, I would just say just to start off with the colleges that are located in the area that you live in. Learn a little bit about them. If you're driving through town or your parents are driving through town, just say, can we just drive through the colleges right now and just at least start to have that conversation to figure out what you want to do in middle school. So very, very light. So just recognizing what the colleges are locally initially. And then I would also say talking to family members that have gone to college is how you can start the conversation as a middle school student. As you transition into high school, for ninth grade, what I will say is first, enjoy high school. Number one, have a great time there. You'll have plenty of time to prepare and get into college. So enjoy high school first. I would say think about where you see yourself in the next 4 years, which will be after graduation. Where do you want to see yourself and what's your ultimate career? So those would be things that I would suggest for students in ninth grade to do. In addition to that, you can start thinking about college. Again, I just mentioned start off with colleges that are local. Talk to, again, people in your family that have gone to college and make sure that you keep your grades up. And then the last thing I would say is visit your school counselor office just to talk about your options and at least let them know if college is the plan for you after high school, to at least let them know so that they'll know that that's your pathway and they'll start to work with you from year to year. So that's one thing that I'll say for every grade level from 9th to 12th grade, making sure you stay in contact and visiting your school counselor and having regular meetings. So that's what I'll say for ninth grade. So for 10th graders, I would say, again, focusing on keeping your grades up and taking challenging courses, whether it's IB, AP, honors, advanced. There are advanced college academies here locally in Richmond and early college academies. So thinking about those things as well as dual enrollment. So making sure that you take challenging courses while you're in high school. They not only help you personally, academically, it helps you when you go off to college because the rigor helps you to be better prepared than just taking just a normal geometry class. Taking an advanced geometry class is something that I would say to look at in your 10th grade year. Also begin researching and visiting colleges while you're in 10th grade. And then you want to also focus on the career part of it. So I would say taking an assessment to see which career based off of your values and characteristics. And those are free assessments, quick tests that you can take online now. And it will categorize what fields they think you would fit in based off of your values and characteristics. So that'll start to craft different areas and fields for you to look at. And again, as I mentioned before, make sure you continue to see your counselor and take your PSAT. So that is the thing for 10th grade. For 11th grade, it's going to be similar to the same, keeping your grades up. So you want to keep your grades up from 9th to 12th grade. It's really, really important. Continue to take those challenging courses. But also in this, you want to take your SAT or ACT test and make sure you prepare for it. And so those are college entrance exams that you should definitely take your junior year. I would also create a list of 5 to 10 colleges that you're really interested in and start looking at each school, going on their website, doing a virtual tour, but also if you're able to start to actually visit them in person. For me, and what I always tell our students, is a feel when you get into the college. You want to make sure that when you get there, you feel like you belong, that the culture is what you want it to be, and that you actually talk to some students as you walk through campus to really see why they like that school. So that is something that certainly you should be doing your 11th grade year. In addition to that, start to build a list of people that can do recommendations for you, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a teacher, someone like me. If you're in a college access program, you want to start to build that up and make sure you ask permission first to list them as recommenders on scholarships and college applications. Then in your 12th grade year, you are at go time. It is time for you to apply for those colleges that you've been researching. It's time for you to also apply for scholarships. It's time for you to apply for FAFSA. It's time to make sure that you have your essays and prompts straight for the college applications and the scholarships. You also want to make sure that you go back and visit your top 3 schools. If you visited them in your 10th and 11th grade year, go back one more time and just make sure it is where you want to be, because you will have to figure out which school you will select once you get all your financial aid award letters. There's a decision day you have to make May 1st of your senior year. So you want to make sure that you visit a second time and talk to some deans and talk to some students to make sure that's really where you want to go. And one other thing that I should have mentioned before, your 10th and 11th grade year colleges have fly-in programs where they will fly you in to those schools. Participate in those, and they will fly you in or pay for your train ticket for free. So make sure you take advantage of those things before your 12th grade year. It's a great way to travel, to see the school, and to do it for free.
Awesome. And you've hit a lot of great points in that answer, especially when it comes to taking the assessment to find out what your skills are and do a personal inventory of the things that you like and see how you can make a career out of that. I feel like some students do not get that opportunity until it's like in their senior year, and then they're trying to build from there rather than doing it earlier and be like, okay, now we could kind of start to build, being that we know what our likes, what our dislikes, and know that those things may change over a course of time.
Absolutely.
My next question for you is colleges want to see a well-rounded candidate, someone that's active in their community, but also able to maintain their academics at the same time. So the question that I have for you is, how important is internships and volunteer work when it comes to the application process for college?
Okay, great question. What I would more so focus on is the volunteer aspect versus the internship. For our program, we do offer internships for high school students for 3 consecutive summers. A lot of high school students don't really get that opportunity. And so I will say it's important if students have the ability to get an internship while they're in high school. I think it will be important, but I know most students don't have that opportunity. So if you do, it will be important to make sure you list it on your college application. But what I would focus on more so than internships is the volunteer aspect. The volunteer aspect is important because it shows a little bit more of who you are when they're looking at the characteristics. It shows what you're truly engaged in and how you pursue the community. And so the most important thing about volunteering opportunities is make sure it's something that interests you. And another thing is, the thing that interests you with volunteering, what colleges would like to see is consistency. So doing a volunteer project or volunteering somewhere over time during a long stretch is way better than just doing these one-time volunteer opportunities. So if you're volunteering at SPCA, for instance, they would like to see you doing it over a year, and maybe you focus on that. If you really love animals, you focus on that being something that you volunteer at over time, and maybe potentially get internships during the summer, so that can turn into that. So I would say making sure you have a consistent volunteer project or opportunity that you're doing over time. For students that are interested in medicine, they definitely try to volunteer at doctors' offices, and we've had students that have done that. So really seeing that from summer to summer, and again, it could turn into internships. That's a great way for your volunteer opportunity in high school to switch into it. So making sure you have a consistent volunteer activity that you do over time. The short ones are fine, but colleges will like to see something that really you're interested in and that you're really engaged in. And so I would say those things end up being important. And then last thing, they also set you apart from everyone else. So if there's a student that does not have volunteer hours, have not had an internship, if you list that on your application and you have those opportunity, it sets you apart from someone else that doesn't have it. So I highly encourage students to certainly get some volunteer hours, but making sure it's consistent. And you can change up your volunteer opportunity from year to year, but making sure that it's more than one time. And the one last thing I'll say is, at your schools, coming up with a clothes drive or something like that you created and you get students to come and be a part of. also really shows up really well in your application. We've had a student that done that before at a school, and they adopted it year after year. So that really looks great if that's something you start and you do consistently within your high school or within your community.
Awesome. And it also brings to mind, in listing all those things and sharing all those things, networking. So would this be a great opportunity for those students to start to build their network based on what they like and what their passions are?
Absolutely. It is a wonderful time. We definitely teach networking within Partnership for the Future. It is an important skill to have because you will always network with someone, whether it's someone at school, someone at work, someone at your internship, even when you get into college. It's all about making connections and introducing yourself to people, because you end up being able to call on those people if you need help and need assistance. So building a network as a high school student is really important. That's definitely a great tip to have as well as you navigate through high school and through college and life is general.
Right, exactly. That brings me to another question that I have. As far as going through the process and building all these resources and gaining all this information, what if you found out along the process you may not be interested in going exactly to four-year college and doing the whole run? What are some other options that are available to students at that point in time?
Sure. Well, we have what we call community colleges or 2-year colleges. And so students, if they don't want to commit to the 4 years, you can do a community college or 2-year college, and you can still stay at home. Get this, you can stay at home and still do that and go to these campuses, and you would end up being a commuter student. There are also 2-year residential colleges like Richard Bland, that's on the other side of Petersburg, where you can actually go and stay on campus, and it's 2 years, and then you can transfer after that 2 years if you want to continue on into a 4-year university. So students that end up going to community colleges earn associate's degrees. So from there, you can just, finish out your schooling and go into the work field. If you decide that you don't really want to do college, there are technical and vocational schools out there. Richmond Technical Center, you can learn a trade, electrician, cosmetology, HVAC. Those are things that you can learn. Plumbers. I will say that a lot of those jobs will be looking for people, and you can still make a decent amount of money. You can still make $70,000 and more without a college degree for those career programs. It just really depends on what the student ultimately wants to do once they finish. And then there's military as well. There's some students right out of high school that decide to go into military, and then there are those that decide to go into work. So there are several different options that you can do between college, trade, community college, work, and military. So, for me, I just always want to make sure students just have a plan, whatever that plan is, and making sure you have somebody to support you through that plan.
Awesome. Also going through the process. Now, this is leaning a little bit more towards parents. So parents and students, as you see parents and students preparing for this process, what are some of the challenges that you see them go through when it comes to college prep?
Okay, great question. I've been doing this work for a long time. The number one thing that I see is finances. When it's all said and done, when students receive their award letters, sometimes it's not enough to close the gap, and it's the student's top choice. And so making sure they can find the additional money to go to school. So we always tell our students to apply for scholarships. Apply for the big ones, but the smaller ones are important, whether it's a $500, $1,000, $2,500. Apply for scholarships. Go to your school counselor's office and find out the scholarships that they have. They have a wealth of scholarships. You can research. There are definitely different online programs, raiseme.com, where you can earn scholarships just doing simple things from babysitting, doing a volunteer opportunity, making an A in a class. The Big Future on College Board, they have scholarships that you can search. So I would say, definitely try to find that. That's always kind of the number one thing. What we also do within PFF, we will call the financial aid office with the student and the parent and help advocate for them and ask for additional funds. You can also ask to speak to the dean in the college that the student is studying under and see if there's additional funds. And then work study is a great option to offset that cost. So for us, we always make sure that our students are applying to several schools, but as well as applying to highly selective schools that will cover your entire 4 years of college. So that's one thing that we always see. And then when it comes time to decide, it's really hard. If you have selected 3 colleges, it's really hard to decide which school you want to go to. So looking at the pros and cons of each one and making sure that, the student ultimately makes a decision, but the parent is there to support them, and really just looking at everything. And that's why I said it's important to take a second college visit your 12th grade year at those schools, just to make sure that you're still sure about it, because that can also help you. So those would be 2 things that I would say end up being, a topic of worry for students and parents during that 12th grade year. So money is always the top one, making sure you have enough, and then helping to decide on which school you want to go to. Ultimately, the parent may want something, the student may want something different, and making sure that you all can figure out the best plan when selecting the college that you're going to.
Awesome. So this is a question that I have more so for your advice for parents getting ready for this process. So what are some things that they can do, probably on not just the financial end, but personally, to prepare themselves for their baby leaving the nest?
Coping skills as well. The students have coping skills and the parents have coping skills. So making sure that it's going to be okay. It is your child. It is your baby. They will always be your child. They will always be your baby. But just as you all are adults, you want to see your child flourish. You want to see your child go to college and make decisions, and make sure you're not being the helicopter parent and finding out and calling them all the time. Give them the freedom when they go to college to just be. Still check on them and still be supportive, but give them that opportunity, and they will call you. Trust me, they will call you when they need something, for sure. So making sure that that it's okay. Your babies will be back for fall break, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for spring break. They'll come back home during the summer. So you still will be able to see them. And there are parent visit weeks on all college campuses where they invite the parents to come over the weekend. So if you're having separation anxiety, phone calls, video chat, and making sure you go on those campuses would be a great help. And making sure that you also have someone that can help support you, maybe another family member or a friend or someone that has a child that has gone to college, especially if it's your first. They can help you with some skills that they have done to make sure they get through. But we all go through life stages, and you want to make sure that they learn responsibility and they can advocate for themselves when they go off to college. So just making sure you take it one day at a time, and it'll be okay. It will be quite all right.
Right. And as you say it, in my mind, I'm thinking about these parents that's like, no, but it's still my baby. They'll be fine. It'll be all right.
Yes, it's still your baby. It is still your baby. Trust me, it is still your baby. And they will still be there, and they will still need mom and still need dad.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Very true. Very true. Oh, yeah, they're going to need you. They're going to need you for food. They're going to need you for laundry. They're going to need you for a ride. Like, yeah. And then they're just going to want to come home and just sit on your lap and be like, Mommy, Daddy, I miss you so much.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Oh. So at this time, we're going to roll into our Professionals Lounge. Professionals Lounge is a segment of the show that allows guests to share advice and tips with other practitioners in the OST and youth development fields about how they can begin growing their gifts and talents, but also develop themselves as professionals in the field. My Professionals Lounge question for you, Miss Tiffany, is: what are some soft skills and life skills after-school professionals can help students develop during their middle school and high school years?
Great question. Communication skills, top one. Top thing. How to communicate effectively with someone. Also, responsibility. Learning responsibility is big. Goal setting. We forever set goals for ourselves from middle and high school through adulthood. So really learning how to goal set and do it the smart way. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. So making sure students create SMART goals. So not just any goals, SMART goals. In addition to that, organization skills, time management, conflict resolution, networking, as we mentioned earlier, teamwork, problem solving, and critical thinking. So those are quite a few skills between soft skills and life skills that out of school time professionals can start to teach students in middle and in high school.
and helping them carry it throughout life, because even as you become your own professional, like those things are very vital, especially when it comes to communication. And you want to be a person that overly communicates and rather under communicates. And know that there's a difference between communication through email than communication with someone in person. Like, it's different things. So tonality, because they may not be familiar with your personality, tonality is very important when you're typing or writing something.
Absolutely. You are absolutely right, because there are many forms of communication. And one thing I will say, one tip is, students text differently. They may use the word, instead of typing you, Y-O-U, they use the letter U. Instead of typing the word before, they'll use the letter B and the number 4, making sure that you use the right language for the right area. So if you're sending an email to a college admissions counselor or to your high school counselor, making sure you use right English, the right way to spell words, and don't text, don't send your text messages like you do in an email. And students sometimes get that confused because they're so used to being on that phone. Mm-hmm. There's a different method, and so you have to make sure you're using the right method depending on what you're, who you're reaching out to, mm-hmm. whether it's email or whether it is a letter. Just making sure you're doing it properly is important. And one other thing with emails, make sure you are not using all cap letters within emails, because it comes across as if you're screaming and you're angry at someone. So you don't ever want to use that, even if you do feel that way. Not a good look. So there's a lot of things within communication, whether it's written or it's verbal, that students need to learn. And I would say it's something that they would have to learn through 2 and 3 sessions, because it breaks down in different areas. So absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I was like, please don't use this shorthand. Please don't use this shorthand to send this email. It's not going to look good for you. It's not going to look good at all.
Not at all.
Well, Miss Tiffany, thank you for being on the show. Go ahead and drop your information, just in case there's information that you want to share with the public about what you're doing or what Partnership for the Future is doing in the future. But also how they can get in touch with you if they ever want to reach out, do workshops, volunteer, anything like that for Partnership for the Future.
Sure. Thank you, Janice. So we are Partnership for the Future. That's our website. We're at www.partnershipforthefuture.org. My direct phone number is 804-967-2545. My email address is simply my name, tiffany.thomas@partnershipforthefuture.org. If you are interested in learning more, volunteering, you can reach out to me via phone or email. I'd also like to share that on Saturday, November 13th, we will have our Partnership for the Future virtual college boot camp seminar. It's open to all high school students. We'll have experts in admissions and financial aid. We'll have a special college student panel where we will have students from various universities and colleges share more about their experiences. Students will have the opportunity to ask them questions. And then we'll also talk about next steps and how to build your academic resume. It's going to be a really great time. So it's Saturday, November 13th from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. It is virtual, and you can find out more information on our social media platforms about our boot camp. So we're on Facebook at Partnership for the Future, and we're on Instagram at Partnership for the Future, and we're also on LinkedIn at Partnership for the Future. So we're on all 3 platforms. But to learn more about the boot camp, find us on Instagram and Facebook. And then we'll also start to do more community events throughout the next year and coming years, just to help students and parents that are not a part of our program learn the college preparation process. And so we're really excited about our Spill the Tea series that will be coming up. And so again, like us on social media and you will find out more about that. And then last but not least, I mentioned that we're an internship program, so we're always looking for businesses to sign up to host our students during the summer. Please reach out if your company or you are interested in hosting a high school student for 7 weeks during the summer. So that's my contact information. Janice, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you all for listening. I'm happy to always share what I know about the college access and success area.
But of course, anytime. Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you, Tiffany, so much for being here with me today and doing this interview. You gave us a lot of juicy information, so hopefully the family was able to take a good portion of it in, take some notes, and able to apply it, as their babies, pursue their college dreams and goals. Hopefully we could do this again sometime soon. So, if you enjoyed this episode and feel you received some good information, give us a review on Apple Podcasts or visit the Podchasers website and leave us a comment. This will help us get some feedback on the show and collect testimonials for our personal website, www.schoolafterhours.net. Share us with your friends, share us with your family, share us with your network. Help us spread the word about how OST programs are impacting our youth as well as our communities. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. Well, that's all I have for today, everybody. In the words of Mr. Arthur Ashe, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Until next time, bye-bye.